Good morning. I am Reverend Claire Middelton from the Center for Spiritual Living Colors here in Charlotte, North Carolina, onecolors.org. I'm happy to be with you as usual. And this morning, what I want to talk about is not getting something for nothing. You know, a lot of times people are drawn to this teaching because so many are prosperous in this teaching. And what I want you to understand is that there is a cost in terms of this prosperity. And it really goes down to your thought process. You know, it takes a certain thought to begin to bring about a certain outcome, and it requires you to continue in that thought process for it to remain. And it also requires you to make a decision in terms of continuing to study and continuing to grow so that the energy necessary for you to vibrate at the level of this good is there. So I just said a whole lot of mumbo jumbo, I'm sure, to a lot of people. Bottom line is that I honestly believe that you can have anything you desire on this plane. And when we talk about God's will is for good. If it were not, then there would be a conflict, and if it wanted something like you to suffer, then it's in opposition to itself and could destroy itself. So clearly, God is desiring good. And what I firmly believe is that we are here to experience the good so that God in us and through us can experience its good. So if we are clear that we're here to experience the good, and it's okay. I think we need to know that, because a lot of times we've been taught that it's wrong to want more. But what I believe is that there's this essence in us that keeps drawing us to experience the greater and the more. But it requires us to grow. See, that's part of the requirement. You don't get something for nothing. In order for you to experience more good, you have got to be able to grow into that good. You've got to be able to see it. You've got to be able to maintain it and to know how to utilize it appropriately. Sometimes we come into money and everybody that we know shows up. And if you don't have the power and the wisdom to know who you can gift it with, then before you know it, it's gone. So part of that process of the good is that you have to be, one, willing to see the good, to accept the good, and to have the wisdom of that good. So what I want to bring about is an understanding for us that you can have what you desire, and if everybody could have all that they desired, and that's what we're teaching, and we haven't screened it, then we have a problem. You can have what you desire as long as it is not going to harm anybody else, and it is for good. Now, because God gives us choice, there are things that people will go after that are not for the good, and they face the consequences of that. I often remind us that what goes around comes around. Whatever you put out, you get back. So if in your mind you're deciding that you want to experience more good and you're stepping on people to get there, then at some point that's going to happen to you, and you'll sit back and go, I don't understand why. I didn't do anything. But if you look back in your life, yes, you stepped upon people and you misused and abused them, so then it comes back to you. So as you move forward, it has to be moving forward with love. I can't say it any simpler. Love. It has to be moving forward with an understanding that whatever it is that you're choosing to experience, it is for the good. And what I've also discovered is that in this process of moving forward, there are times that you need to really clearly understand how you're going to use this good, and that good goes beyond just you. But it requires spiritual wisdom, because sometimes, and I have to admit that it has taken a lot for me to get to the point where I really consult Spirit about should I do this or not in terms of sharing and giving, because I've been a good hit through the years, and a soft tail would get me. But I've learned from that there are times that people can come to you and they want something, and one of the things that happens is that they start thinking that you're the one that they can always go to. You now have become their God. That is a very dangerous position to be in, because God is only God. You're not God to them. And what they need to discover is the God that you've discovered. So when you step in and you're rescuing people all the time, what you do is get in the way of them discovering God for themselves. Not a smart position to be in. So what I've had to learn, and it's been a difficult lesson, is a word that is just 2 letters. No. And sometimes that's necessary to say no, so that people can find the same God that you've found, the same source and supply that you've found, the same essence that is always available to you is also available to them. And to deny them that journey is really to deny them the whole process of why we're here. It really is to discover the essence within us. So when we talk about desiring something greater, what I want you to understand is that yes, you can have it, but it may require something on your part. It may require you to do some learning. May require you to get together with some people who have already achieved what you desire and learn from them. It requires you to go to the source, to go to spirit, and to really be conscious that this essence wants you to be successful, and that it will bring you through certain experiences that are necessary for you to grow in. So there are times that you may pray and things don't necessarily show up immediately. And what we tend to do is decide, oh, God doesn't want me to have that, or the devil's busy. And what I want you to know is that as long as you are not going to harm anybody in this process, God is saying yes. God's will is for you to have good. But what God may be saying is that at this point, it's necessary for you to get some education. And you may go to your mailbox and there's a workshop on finances. I wonder why. Maybe that's an area that you're weak in and you need to take some time and learn how to handle money. It may be saying that you need to support your spiritual home, the place that has given you this inspiration. It could be your center, your church, it could be an author, it can be a musician. And I've really been sharing that with people because there are times that you may feel like I'm all alone and you put on a CD and that CD lifts you up. Then that CD and that person who produced it needs to be supported. And so that's a time that you sit down and write a tithing check and send it to them and say, thank you so much for what you do. Because the reality is that they get a very small amount for the work that they do. So tithing is another piece in terms of your movement towards prosperity and your movement towards greater good, is really getting to the point where you clearly understand what I give out, I get back. So if I give out 10%, God is going to give me back that 10 times 10, 100% back, and then some. So part of this process of experiencing the good really requires some work on your part. You have got to believe in the good. You have got to speak the good. You have got to see yourself experiencing this good. You know, sometimes we desire a change in life, but we sit around with people and we discuss how wrong things are. We don't understand the power in us is listening to what we're saying, and whatever we're saying about what's wrong, we now are taking this powerful energy and focusing on that wrong, and before you know it, that wrong gets bigger and bigger. The most difficult thing, I think, for us is to turn away from what is not working and to start beginning to talk about what is working, as if it already is working. So one of the things I share with people a lot, and I don't know that anybody gets it, is that when I leave my house, I remind myself who I am. I am a divine expression of God. I am not a female. I am not black. I am not whatever age I am. I am a divine expression of God. Where am I going? I am going to meet divine expressions of God. So as I walk about throughout the day, there is a connection with the people that I see in the street. There's a connection with the children that pass me by. There's a connection with the drivers. because what I have done is identified myself as an expression of God, meeting and mingling with expressions of God. And do you know what happens? It works. It absolutely works. Doors that might be closed to a female are open. Doors that might be closed to an African American are open. Doors that might be closed to someone in my age bracket are opened. All the doors are open, and part of this for me is being in the world but not of it. I can move about on this planet, but I am not caught up in the stuff and the appearances of the planet. I have lifted myself up to the level of the gods, and I am moving about on that essence. So part of this process of being able to draw to yourself something greater is really knowing who and what you are. It's recognizing the power that you really are and using that power for your greater good, which means I'm focusing on that which I desire. I'm beginning to speak it, talk it, know it, and it has no choice but to show up. I'll talk about this power some more because I really think that we don't get it. We think we're human. We're not. That's a facade. And so it is.